He was like, you don't have enough credit. I said, what? He's like, no, you need to open credit cards. I said, say what? Today's video is a reflection video. It's going to be a little bit different from what I normally share on my channel. If you've been following me for a while and you've watched all of my debt confession videos, you know that I have a whole playlist that details the numbers and the activities that got me into credit card debt. In today's video though, I wanted to reflect instead on the mindset that got me into credit card debt. The video is roughly broken into a few key sections. At first, I kind of give you an understanding of the mindset that got me into that. Then I talk about how the mindset originated from my childhood. So I give you an idea of examples and situations in my childhood that led to this particular thinking. Then I take you on to me as a young adult navigating corporate America and how then that mindset just got even worse during that particular time as a young adult. And I also share how now me as a woman is reframing the mindset so that I can begin to win over that mindset. I'm realizing now just the power of the connection between behavior and mindset and how the two go hand in hand. See, mindset is something that you can consciously be aware of, but it can also be an unconscious driver, right? It's not until you begin to reflect on your behaviors that you unlock the unconscious drivers that are almost dictating your behaviors in a way. I am not a psychologist, but I play one on YouTube apparently. So this is me just really trying to hone in deeper to understand, well, why did I make this decision instead of this other decision, right? Why did I do X, Y, and Z? I could have taken a completely different approach. The theme that has been prevalent and has impacted my life the most when it comes to my finances has been the scarcity mindset or scarcity thinking. Specifically, the fear of losing out on something, and for me, it's losing out on income. Before I dig deeper into sharing with you guys how this mindset manifests itself and has impacted me for both good and bad, let me quickly define what the term means. So the scarcity mindset is roughly defined as the fixation or the thinking that you never have enough. It's an obsession about what you think you lack when it comes to money, time, relationship, and other resources. And for me, money and time were the two biggest obsessions of mine. So the term was originally coined to describe a specific type of anxiety and cognitive stress experienced by people whose income are below the federal poverty threshold. And this is a critical one here for me as it pertains to my own personal life and history. I grew up in a family of parents who were college students. So I'll share a little bit more about that coming up, but it's deeply, you see this mindset being more prominent to people who grew up at the poverty or below the poverty line. We're obsessed with what we lack. And that drives a lot of our decision making. It drives how we manage money. And now that you understand like the very broad, loose definition, I'm going to kind of go through what my experience growing up was like. You know, this is real moment of vulnerability here. But I grew up very poor with parents who were college students. The interesting thing is I don't think I really realized it because I wanted to tell myself that I was middle class. But I technically grew up poor. My parents were college students. We came here from a country from Central Africa. And when we got here, I remember the prevailing thought in my family was that education is the key to success. And my parents were like, you do not get into debt for anything except only acceptable debt is student loan debt. Because in our culture, when you go to school and you get a good education, the government places you in a government job, and those government jobs paid very well, and that could put you in a good, comfortable middle class financial situation and a really good retirement. That's the mindset my parents came here with, and that's what we held on to. And that's what I held on to most of my life. I was like, yes, education is the key to success. We bought all of our cars cash. We never really had credit cards, not that I remember. I think maybe my parents had one or two, but for the most part we paid for everything cash except for our student loan debt. And my parents, I mean, they rocked out the student loan debt like, I mean, we're like, whatever you need to do to get that degree, because once you get that degree, it's like money will just start flowing to you, right? Like a stream, just like flow. Money will just flow over to you. In 2008, my dad graduated with his PhD finally. Mind you, my dad moved here in 1995. He was supposed to come get a master's 2 years later. War broke out in my country, so then he started working on us getting our papers to move to the United States as war refugees. 3 years later, after a long immigration process, we finally got the papers to move the whole family to the United States. So in 2000, all of us were united in the United States. So from 1995 to 2008, my dad was a freaking student, getting his master's and his PhD. He took his sweet time. There were challenges along the way. He did some of it part-time, of course, because when you got 3 kids that you still have to feed and you're working a full-time job, getting a graduate degree is very challenging. It took me 6 years to get my master's degree. Well, not 6 years, more like 4 years to get my master's degree, which was 2 years longer than I wanted to, but life got in the way and I prioritized other things. So I understand that my dad took that long. That though did have an impact on our financial situations. I remember one day looking at like my parents' tax return, and when I look back at it today, I was like, oh my God, like we were poor, like the P and O. We could barely afford the P and O. Like the rest of the OR, we could not afford it. So in 2008, my dad graduates college with his PhD. I mean, all of us are ready. We're like, whoo, this is it. This is it. Life is about to change for us. Things are going to be great. But what happened in 2008? The crash. I watched as family and friends, most of them got degrees, and either they never got any job offers, or whatever offers they got, they, at least to them, they thought was way below them, right? So there were very low offers, insignificant offers, or they were not getting any offers at all. And this had a real impact on my psyche. And for the first time, what I had believed was what protects you from financial poverty. It's almost like this belief that I had, right? I realized all of a sudden that it was not true. It was a lie. Education does not save you, right? And I did not believe that education was insignificant. I just did not believe that it was the launching pad I had been led to believe my whole life. And this transformation wasn't just happening with me, it was happening with my whole family. And what this did is that it triggered the scarcity mindset and launched me into protective mode. And my protection was twofold. Protect what you have, increase or diversify what's coming. I cannot really tell you at what time or how this happened or where I got this mindset, but one thing became very clear to me. One, education alone wasn't the key. There were other skill sets and things and resources that you needed to really have a better income. But at the same time, I also developed the mindset that you cannot just rely on a job to make you a living. You need to have all kinds of different ways to bring in money. Because another thing that I also noticed at the time is people that I knew started losing their jobs. So here are the good things that happened with this mindset for me. I started investing in education about money and career success. Right? I was like, there has to be something else that leads people to success. And it's interesting because growing up in America, we came here when I was in middle school. And people at church especially would very low key make fun of my dad for being in school for so long. And they'll be like, hey dude, if you started in a career, you could have made way more than what you're getting in your education. And at the time, we didn't listen because we were in the African mentality in our heads. We're like, no, education is the way to go. That was true, but we're missing the part that education is only one factor. There are all these other things. And it's almost like I started unlearning some of that, and I tried to give the benefit of the doubt to the people who were low-key making fun of us for getting all of these degrees, spending all of this money, connecting all of these student loans, and we saw no return on that investment. It became very clear to me that I needed to understand the American system. We translated the African mentality of success into the American mentality of success. And those two are completely, they have almost nothing to do with each other. We had never really as a family invested the time to really understand the American way of thinking. So I on my own started breaking that apart. I spent a lot of time educating myself. I would read, you guys, when I'm telling you that I would read so many books on money management, investing, success. It was to the point that one of my American friends was almost like, Nandy, you need to be careful with some of those books because some of those can be predatory, individuals, extreme capitalists teaching you that money is the end all be all. And she was right, right? But it's almost like that's what I kind of needed to completely deconstruct what was in my head. The second thing I did, first, I invested in education. Two, I started changing my entourage. My family and friends dreamt about success, but many of them, because they were either college students or brand new to the country, had not had lived experience of success, especially in America, right? Nobody told me about 401k. Nobody taught me about how to negotiate a job. Nobody taught me about retirement investing. I mean, none of that even crossed my consciousness. I changed my entourage, but then the third thing that I did is that I started applying what I was learning. Right? So the scarcity mindset kind of fueled what eventually became many of the numbers that you see, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the good part was the deconstruction of my brain, the changing of my entourage, and the application of some of what I was learning in terms of investing, in terms of understanding credit scores and how that worked. I remember I had graduated college, got my first job, and I was doing very well in that first job. And then I got a second job. In that second job, I got a 50% increase in salary. And I was like, I am going to buy a house. I was thinking about just buying a condo. One of my friends was a realtor. I went to her. I was like, hey, I make like this amount of money. Can I buy a house? She was like, you make great money as a single woman. You can certainly buy a house, because I help people buy houses with those incomes all the time. I went to fill out my paperwork, and the guy was like, you need to improve your credit score. I was like, well, how do I do that? He was like, you don't have enough credit. I said, what? He's like, no, you need to open credit cards. I said, say what? You need to tell me I need to go into debt in order to make somebody lend me money for a house? That like went way over my head. When I'm telling you way over my head, I was like, this makes no damn sense. What kind of system do you have? You should want me, because other than my student loan debt, I have no other debt. I should have great credit score. They were like, no, you don't. Right? That was eye-opening to me. So now let's discuss the bad of how this mindset impacted me in my life. The main negative impact was the overwhelm and the obsession with building wealth. Right? It's like I noticed that I have an internal fear of not just losing money, but also losing time, right? And it's like both of them almost go together. So what I started doing is parallel pathing everything. In general, I'm an anxious person who is always like, time has always been, like, for some reason, like those two things, fear of losing time and money, I mean, they've been my Achilles heel together for as long as I can remember. While I was working my full-time job, I started reading up a lot on how to advance in my career, how to not necessarily get a promotion, but how to just interview for better opportunities, how to really articulate myself, how to gain the best opportunities in the workplace, how to really position myself as a leader. So while I'm doing career development, I was doing side hustles, but I was also getting an education to boost up my career prospects. So all of this parallel pathing just led to overwhelm, right? And so in my career, not only am I getting the education to try to boost me up into the next level to increase my income, but I'm also actively moving from job to job. And what people don't realize about job transitions is that they take a lot of your energy and your time, right? You have to work on your resume, you have to interview, and then when you go into that job, now you're learning a complete new system. You're learning new relationships, you're learning new environments. So all of this is incoming just stimulus in my brain. Meanwhile, I am benefiting for these jobs that I'm adding to myself. Almost every job either gave me a higher title or it gave me a significant increase in salary. To the tune of me, I started my career about 12 years ago, and since then I have 4x'd my income, right? Actually more than 4x my income if you think about my total compensation, all of the benefit bonuses and stuff like that. That is normally not common for the average American. When it came to education, I didn't just get one degree. Yeah. I have 3 certificates: a certificate in fitness and nutrition, a certificate in massage therapy, a certificate in aesthetics, skin therapy. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and biochemistry. I get a minor in business and in zoology. And then I get 2 graduate degrees, an MBA and a master's in pharmaceutical science. So I'm literally accumulating all of these degrees because I'm like, hey, like when it comes to my career, what do you need? Bang, I got it. What do you need? Bang, I got it. Let me throw the kitchen sink out there. Don't get me wrong. Every single thing I just described to you has paid me dividend. The con here was that I've done it almost at the expense of my sanity, my stress level. So that's the negative part. So along with my education, my career where I'm changing roles, I'm also building side hustles like crazy on the side. I have an Airbnb business. I have an Amazon KDP business that's barely making me any money, but the experience of doing all of these side hustles is invaluable, right? I started a reselling business. Thanks to that business, I was able to save tens of thousands of dollars in taxes. Not tens of thousands, actually. It cut me back by about my taxes by a little more than $10,000. So thousands of dollars in taxes because of that reselling business. And I also built a blog, like a bona fide blog where I had a blog designer, like a web designer, all of that. These are all things that I'm not actively working on, but because of my scarcity mindset, I was thinking, let me line them all up around me as protection. In case something happens to my job, I can just be like, boom, money is coming from reselling, money is coming from Airbnb, money is coming from my blog, money is coming from my KDP, right? So it's almost, my mindset was put in place skill sets, shelve them, and when you need them in case of an emergency, because that's what the scarcity mindset tells you, right? You need to be prepared for some proverbial emergency out there. So I've put all of these things in place. And on top of that, my certificate in fitness and nutrition is there. I can go somewhere and teach Zumba or teach a body pump class. I can go to a massage envy and work as a massage therapist and an esthetician. So I wanted to inoculate myself. In case I lose my job, I have like all of these tentacles of protection around me. Right? So this is what's happening in my mindset as all of this, as I'm getting all of these things. So as you can imagine, outside of the certificate, two of the certificates and the bachelor's degree, all of these things have happened to me just in the past 8 years that I've gotten the massage therapy certificate, the 2 graduate degrees, all of the litany of side hustles, and then 4 job changes that 4x plus 4x my income, right? This is all happening in a period of about 8 years. So it was just complete overwhelm. And the problem with overwhelm is that when you're juggling all of these different things, something will fall by the wayside. And for me, it was the swiping the credit card. Although I wasn't swiping it for personal stuff, right? Because when you look at my expense breakthrough, which I'm going to link somewhere up here, you notice that I'm not spending money on frivolous things. I am spending money on my investment. That's something else that I didn't share. I also started investing in real estate on top of all this craziness. So I became really overwhelmed by it all. So money management, skill set, and things that I knew to do, it created a discipline deficiency, not just in my finances, but also in other parts of my life. While before, I would eat very healthy, I would go to the gym and exercise. None of that was happening. All of that was on the back burner. Because I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm already in this sugar honey iced tea, I'm not going anywhere. I need to find a way to stabilize all of this stuff and then start developing better a habit. This is May 2023. Last year in December, I finished my graduate degree, and then that's really when I took a step back and I was like, hey, finance, we have to be better. We are making a lot of money. We're bringing a lot of money in, but it's not reflecting, right, in our lives. Why? Because I'm playing catch up because I have so much debt. So here is how I am now reframing my mindset. I am making myself very cognizant of my debt cycles, right? Identifying, well, what things are getting me into debt. But I'm also almost being gentle with myself and learning, or I'm combating or reframing the scarcity mindset by reminding myself that not only do I have enough money to be safe, but I have built a good infrastructure in my career that even if I was to lose my job today, I will not lack financially, because one, I have built the safety, but not even that. There are plenty of opportunities every single day. I have to remind myself, Nandy, every day a recruiter is reaching out to you. So you will not be without a job. Even if you lost your job, you won't be going years and years and years without a job. You will find something in a short period of time. Another thing that I'm reframing for my peace of mind is that my debt is not a burden. My debt is not a burden, and it shouldn't make me defeated. I can overcome my debt. And this is important for anyone who has debt, especially if you have debt. It's important for you to reframe that your debt is not a burden. You can overcome it. You shouldn't be defeated by it. And the last thing that I'm really learning, and that's playing a big impact in my life right now, is that doing impacts mindset. I don't need to sit here, look at a mirror and tell myself, Nandy, you're disciplined. Nandy, you don't lack anything. You don't lack in time and you don't lack in money. You are going to be good. But as I began to force myself to behave differently, that also impacts how I think, right? So it's almost like when you train the muscles in your body to behave a certain way, they send signals to your brain to also release the right kind of chemicals that would enable you to also begin to think differently. You see that I started changing my financial habits. I started forcing myself to take a step back. When I moved to California, for example, I was thinking that let me buy a house very quickly. That's what I did when I moved to Colorado. When I moved to California, I told myself I wasn't going to buy a house. I told myself that I was not going to buy a house until I had completely paid off my credit card debt, especially. And that was a reframing, right? From doing, like changing my doing to impact my mindset. And that so far has been so powerful for me. So powerful for me. In a nutshell, the thrust of this video is to kind of share a little bit of the mindset that went into the accumulation of all of my debt, but most importantly, to share a little bit about how I am reshifting and retraining my brain to move away from that scarcity and fear of lack, but to move more into a place of abundance and joy. Because life is too short to constantly be fearing that you're going to lose this and lose that and lose this and the other. And if you're somebody who has struggled with this, I hope that my vulnerability can help you in your process. And if you don't mind, I love hearing from you guys. Please share with me what has been your Achilles heel. Which mindsets have impacted you in not having the right money mindset behaviors that you need to have for you to live your best financial life. Thank you so much for joining me once again for another video. You know I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and come back for more videos. As always, I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video.